धर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। So we are in chapter 2:2, that is in that book, how you number it? The other one. Puromekadashadvaram. Is it not? Brito, that's where we are. In our page 108. Puromekadashadvaram ajasya avakrachetasah अनुष्ठाय न शोचति विमुक्तश्च विमुक्ते एतद्वैतत्। 137 मिला श्लोक तो दे पर देख लीजिए ना। पुरमेकादश द्वारम His body is the abode of the self. Puramekadashvaram with 11 openings. Ajasya avakrachetsaha. This self which is birthless and it has no any change. And then Anushtaya, a spiritual aspirant uses his body only in the service of the self, only for spiritual practice, and being so, vimuktascha vimukt, he goes beyond sorrow. As he overcome his ignorance and has stopped identifying himself with the body, he becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. This truly is that etad vaitat. So here, the even the consciousness, which is the true nature of the self, which is without change, without anything, ultimately, this body is considered in that sense, because of this body only, all these things finally have come into the discussion or argument or whatever it is, because we have taken birth, because we are caught in this maya, because we feel this limitedness. From there only the idea of going beyond all that has started. So in a sense, this body is the kind of a starting point, that we are born in this world, that we are suffering, we are doing all that. Now with this, if you use it, if you do sadhana, then you will know how to overcome this and how to go beyond. And as it always said that, Sokam Tarati Atmavit, the person who realizes Atman goes beyond sorrow ultimately. That is the goal of all Upanishads. So, there's always someone who controls the city. Paramekadash Dwaram, it's like bodies compared to a city. Just as there's a control of the city with supreme authority, similarly, in the case of the body, the self is the supreme authority. So, because of ignorance, we think that we are suffering, we are this, we are bound, we are limited, we have difficulties, we have sorrow, we have sukha, everything. So slowly as you do, intense sadhana, if the self realizes, if you start asserting yourself as the true blemishless Satchit Ananda Swarup, slowly it starts happening. So actually the first step towards that is to think that one is divine. That's what Swamiji says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest the divinity. So the body and mind are tools. You can use them to go up the ladder and reach the higher and higher states of life and ultimate consciousness, or you can, use, as most of us use, they use it to bring ourselves down and forget our true nature and suffer endlessly. So, once you become free, then, you are the awareness that you are the Supreme Self or the Lord of everything. Then once you die, there is forever mukti and there is no coming back. So, now one question that is often discussed is, what happens to a person who is realized? The point is, if a person once has got jnana, to live in the world, to participate itself means coming in contact with ajnana vertically. So jnana and ajnana cannot go together. So how do you explain? See, in Gita also, when in this jnanagni sarvakarmani bhasmasat kurute tata, there also when explaining in the Bhashya, Shankara says that all karmas except prarabdha, it burns all the other karmas once you get jnana. See, actually, what exactly is finally this so-called liberation? See, you slowly as you do sadhana, more and more you start realizing, ultimately you realize that you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are beyond all that. So once that complete awareness comes and stays with you, then virtually the karmas are all destroyed. There is no accumulation. There is no sense of participation in that. But then, a person, for the ordinary onlooker, a Brahmajnani and an ordinary person, in the way they work, apparently you see there is no difference. They also eat, they also sleep, maybe they may sleep less or eat less, but they are also doing all these functions. So what they say is, in the case of a jnani, once you realize the truth, there is no identification with the body and mind. See, the karma becomes a problem, it leads to bondage only when there is idea of kartritva and bhoktritva. I am the karta, I am the enjoyer. So, when you identify it with whatever you do, then only you really get all those, the effects of karma. You suffer, then there is samskara, then another birth, then accumulation, karma phala, all those. But if you work without the complete idea that you are not the body, you are not the mind, you will do, but you will not really own up, you won't participate. That's why, in that famous this thing, he lived even probably in the early 80s, 1980s or so he passed away, when Nisargadatta Maharaj was there. He ran a BD shop all his life. He was a person with a family man with 4 children. Suddenly, one day while going, it happened and he got that complete realization. He never looked back. He continued to do that job. He was smoking BDs, he was running a BD shop in a very crowded area of Bombay. He had a small shop. There people will come to discuss. But always that awareness that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not linked to it, that did not desert him even for a second. So much so, whatever you do at that point, it doesn't add to anything. It doesn't add to your karma's accumulation. It doesn't produce further karma phala or the effects of karma and all that. And not only that, by living that way slowly, the other things are also. So they always give one famous example. of course nowadays I don't know, we may not even have a chance to see the potter, जब वो बनाते हैं जो घूमता रहता है. So when the last pot is also made, he doesn't forcefully stop it, allow it to run it like that. He keeps on rotating, but no more pots are made. Like that they say, the jnani, after his complete realization, till his prarabdha is there, he continues to function like that. But then he will not participate actively in anything. There won't be a sense of ownership, agentship. I am the karta, I am the doer. This idea will totally be absent because he knows that he is not the body, he is not the mind. So he can no longer participate in any activity or karma in that fashion. So there is a big difference between a jnani and the other. So that's what even Shankara also says. To some extent, a small little trace of the ego, or the ahankara, is left even in a Brahmajnani. Otherwise, you can never function. Nothing is possible at all. So Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Shankaracharya, Vidyar Amir Keshlan. You retained the ahankara of Vidya so that you could teach. Otherwise, who would teach? How would people learn from Brahmajnanis? If after Brahmajnana immediately the body drops off, then nobody would know. So how do you get faith in the words of the scriptures? Only when you see such living personalities. Yadyat acharati seshya tattyevi itarojana sayat pramanam kuruti lokastadani vartati. Only by seeing such people emulate their lives, and that is why their redemption happens. So, although technically it's very difficult to say that how a person of complete knowledge can participate in anything after that. Any participation means the touch of ignorance, obviously. But they say that, see, you cannot, what is real, what is seen, what is experienced, cannot be denied philosophically. Philosophy may say that technically it is not possible. But in reality it is seen. Reality it is seen that such a person has had the knowledge also. Because Shankaracharya, after establishing the Advaita Vedanta, becoming the greatest realized soul, went all over India, established 4 mutts, wrote so many books, commentaries and all that. How was it all possible? So a little trace of ego might be there, but that will not, just as they say, a burnt rope does not have the capacity to bind. The shape is there, the rupa is there, the akar is there, but it does not bind the individual. It does not generate any fresh karma phala, does not create any new samskaras that way. So that way it would appear as if the person is functioning, the person is participating. But in real sense, he has no sense of agentship. He does not feel that he is the doer. He has no identification with the body and mind. And therefore, is completely free from the effects of karma. Of course, in the other schools, they have other ways they say, how you have to perform. Even before also they say, for example, Gita, for the devotees it says, Et karoshi yadasnashi yadjosi dadasi et tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Offer everything to me. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give as charity, even the yaga, yajna that you do, everything you offer constantly. So, you never have this thing. So, Krishna also advised, nimitta matram bhava savasachin. Become a nimitta. Don't think that you are the doer. He showed him. All Bhishma, Drona, etc. all been killed already. Whether you want it or not, this is the result I am showing you beforehand. Just participate as if you are doing. You don't have to do. Whatever you do, this is what is going to happen. It's already decided. So, believe that you are an agent of the Lord. Don't attribute that you are doing yourself. And that is how you can work for your redemption. So, in various schools, various ways say. But in the case of the Advaitin, even after he realizes, he has to, because as long as little of much of it would have been gone by the time before he realizes, What little of the prarabdha is left, he does it. He lives more for the sake of loka sangraha, for the welfare of the world, so that others might know how a Brahmagyani lived. Because Ramana Maharshi was clearly was accepted as one of the greatest of the Advaita Jnanis. But he lived some maybe 30 years after that also. He would go about, he would work in the kitchen, he would serve, he would meet people, he would talk. All that are all with the idea that the body, which was called Ramana, was doing all that. But in his mind, in his own this thing, there was no sense of participation. He never used to feed any identification. So it's possible one can live that way. Then of course one has to be careful how it happens. Then Hamsaha sushishat pasirantarishat hota vedishat atiti dronasate nishat vritasat varasat ritasat vyomasat abja goja ritaja adrija ritam brihat. So it is everywhere. It's all pervading. So here all one after another, it's all the eulogies of the Brahman. See, he has told him what Upasana is to do, how he has to practice. First he taught him the Nachiketagni, then the various ways, how the Omkara Upasana is to be done. All that he had told him. Now he continues to impress upon him the extraordinary nature of the self. Because again and again, this idea has to be drilled into one's mind. Otherwise we will forget. So he's again he's emphasizing. Everywhere, it is the sun, the Vasu supports everything. Hota, the fire in the sacrifice, fire in the altar, Vedi, the fire, the whole earth as is altar. It's the Brahmin guests, Somarasa in a pitcher, human beings, all good things. So in the water as fish and other aquatic animals, grows as paddy, wheat, and other. That means virtually, it is everything. Whatever, here they had given a list of some of the more sacred or more adored or admired things, because they are all considered very sacred. Vedic fire, then the Homa fire, Sumaras, entertaining Brahmins as guests, and then, paddy, wheat, other plants. These are all, it is coming from the mountains, it's rivers and streams. Self is the biggest and is the self of all. Bigger than the big, the Anuraniyan we already seen. So it's everywhere, it's all pervading, it's everything virtually. The self is within all beings, but it's also outside. Antascha bahyascha, both inside and outside. Actually, inside, outside are all divisions that we are creating. As far as the self is concerned, there is nothing like inside and outside. From our limited sense, with the idea that we are the body, we are the mind, we are seeing all these divisions. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a very beautiful example. In a tub of water, he put a stick, saying that this, but there is no division actually. Water can't be divided like that. So here also, in one sense, for us, from our sense of body and mind, it has to be told that is inside, is outside. But really, is everywhere. And also everywhere means is not present as a separate entity or anything. Just as we are there, trees are there, flowers are there, animals are there, Brahman is also there. No. It's all pervading, in and through everything. There are two ways of stating Brahman. One is saying that there is Brahman and Brahman alone, there is nothing else. There is only that one consciousness. Nothing else is recognized. This is one standpoint, maybe the Mandukya standpoint, where they always take the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. They say that Avastatraya and they discuss. They are asking, in Sushupti, where is the world? You are a billionaire, maybe Shraddha has 1 crore in the bank balance. But what happens to money? You cannot access it in sleep, it's gone. Only when you get up next morning, you can say, I still have it. Otherwise, it's gone. So, that way they say, so why do you think that what you see in the waking is real? It is not there in sleep. In dream it is something totally different. Why do you think that what you see in this waking world is real? This is also an imagination. And also in a sense it is true also, because you see, the same thing, but two people, definitely there will be some difference in the appearance. If I say this is mic, someone would say, oh, this is something this. A person who has never seen a mic would say something, oh, there's some iron stick like something is there, you would say. A person who is very well versed in electrical engineering might say, this is the, what is this volume, what is its capacity, what is its sound, whether its echo is there, this and that. So, we can very clearly see that all our perception is always subject to individuals. So, if you go further, finally, you can very well say that just as it vanishes in the sleep, you can negate it in the waking state also. So that way, there is only one and nothing else. The another way is taking a more, relatively comforting view is, it is in and through everything. It is all there. There is nothing apart from Brahman. Everything is because of that only. If it is not there, everything is gone. The moment it leaves, then there is nothing. Everything becomes achetana, jada. So that's what, when Ramakrishna, after his realization, when he was going, he says, as if it's all peeping out from a pillow cover. Bali se retiki ukhi marche, cover tiki. That means what? It is everywhere, all pervading. Only the shapes, forms, etc. are all human conceptions. Everything, it's a convention, no? Why should we call it as mic? Is anyone written there somewhere to call? By convention. I can always also say it is a small stick which is reflecting the voices. I can also say that. So, all this is nama rupa. The whole thing is, because the conception of the human mind. Some convention we have developed, we are following it. Somebody else might change it also. Something else might happen. The same thing after some years. No, it is wrong. Something else can happen. So, beyond, that's why, it is very risky to give credence to this world and its existence beyond a point. Then we will be always in trouble. That is why there is so much of sorrow and suffering, because we are taking the world very seriously. Jagat ko hum log itna satya lag raha hai. That is the point where we are suffering so much. Anything, any little thing, we keep on, the mind keeps on ruminating again and again, oh, ye ho gaya. So if you think that no, it doesn't matter, aaya to gaya, kya hai? Then you are free from sorrow and suffering. And then he say again, urdhvam pranam munnayan ati apanam pratyagashyati madhye vamanamasinam vishve deva upasate unnayati pranam unnayati apanam pratyagasyati. You see, the self which is the prana is which is that voice goes up, apana is going below. So it is self is in the heart, and it is that which regulates all this. And the yogis meditate, all the organs perform the duties as if they are paying tribute to their master, their self. So again, they're all, again and again in various ways emphasizing the supreme nature of the self and how it is part of everything, how it is indispensable, how it goes on and on and on. That's what he's saying to say. So then, asya visramsamanasya sharirastasya deinaha dehat vimuchyamanasya kimatra parisishyate etad vaitat. When this embodied self gets detached and leaves the body behind, asya visramsamanasya sharirastasya deinaha dehat vimuchyamanasya kimatra. What remains there? This truly is that. So, finally, in the body, nothing. When the body is dropped dead, when the self leaves the body, there is nothing there. So, that's why it is not described as something. What remains or what is that? It is that, nothing else, that way. So, the self controls everything in the body. If the body is compared to city itself, it would be its master. When the master leaves the city, there is chaos, nothing to be done. The organs in the body may all be intact, yet they do not function. See, the whole thing, the entire mechanism comes to a standstill. What that was when the Jivatman leaves. Along with that, the Supreme Self also is no longer there that way. That's why, it's always a question, what remains after? That's what the Nachiketa's inquiry started with, that big question. What remains after death? So again, see, that is what he was asking about. If in the body, there is nothing. The whole body crumbles virtually when the self leaves. Na pranena, na apanena, martyo jivati kaschana, itarena tu jivanti, yasminne tu upasritau. So, no mortal being can survive by his vital breath. So we always think, our prana and apana is what's, behind that. Just as that will also come behind the Surya, the sun is shining because it is borrowed from something else. By itself the sun cannot shine, the moon cannot shine, everything. You say, what about small fire? Even Surya has to depend on that. So this prana and apana, they are all because of that only. But lives by something else. Yasmin yeta upasto, on which these two depend. No mortal can survive his vital breath. There is something else that sustains them. On this something, both prana and apana are dependent, as namely the cosmic self. Jivati na apanena vitarena na jivan. Yasmin yetau upasritau, on which these two depend. So, the self is the lord of the whole body and mind complex. Vital breath are all dependent on the self. When the death leaves the body, the whole body mind collapses. Its constituents may all be intact. So everything, if you see that, everywhere it's the same. Whenever there may be billions of human beings, etc. So these are all this multiplicity, that is so insignificant compared to that, because that one thing completely motivates, moves, controls, sustains the entire universe. So it is so powerful and so it's all pervasive. Hanta tu idam pravakshyami guhyam brahma sanatanam yatacha maranam prapya Atma Bhavati Gautama. So it says, this subject is a secret and eternal Brahman. So what happens to the self after death? Hantata idam pravakshyami guhyam brahma sanatanam. Yatacha maranam prapya atma. See, because these are all not given to everybody. Only because you are such a extraordinary aspirant, capable of receiving the highest knowledge. So Yama says, yes, I will tell you. Already he has told him quite a bit. Now he says, I will tell you further what happens, how it all happens. He's going to explain to the nature of Brahman and how it can be attained, what happens after the death. Only a few trained persons can understand it. That's why it's Guhyam is considered secret. Because it's not known to everybody, people can't even understand. Yonimanye prapadyante sharirattvaya dehina sanumanye anusayanti yata karma yata srutam. Embodied souls, depending on their work and knowledge, have a body again, going through the process of rebirth. Yonimanye prapadyante sharirattvaya dehin. Stanumanye anusayanti yata karma yata. In some cases, the body may be immobile, as a tree, etc. You see, that's what according to the Hindu idea, there is rebirth. Whatever, as long as you are, why there is rebirth? Because we feel the dehina, we feel we are the body. Dehin, that's why we are called. One who is identified with the Deha is Dehin. So this Dehin, when they die, because identification, they never work to understand that they are not the body or they are not the mind. They think that, we all think that we are the body, we are the mind. We never think that I have this name, but this is not this body. Whenever we think that we are this body, that's why we feel so hurt when someone tells about this body or tells about individuality, etc. So, when this body dies, depending upon the karma, whatever you have done, the next birth takes place accordingly. That's why they say, there are one of the greatest, this thing is called the prarabdha karma, particularly toward the end of the life. That's why they say, while dying, try to take the name of the Lord, etc., etc. The last portion of the life, whatever you do, they appear as prarabdha and regulate the beginning of the next life. So, although there are so many other things, you have huge accumulation, agama, sanchita, all those karmas are there. But prarabdha is toward the end of the life, whatever you do, then that's why always our thing is, with age, people tend to turn to more religion, etc., etc. If you live a very, this thing that way, that's why they say, they name children the name of gods and goddesses, so that at the time of death, if you call Durga, Durga, then you will get a better birth like that. So whatever is done towards the end of the life, that propels and comes to the forefront to give a beginning to the next life, prarabdha. And then of course, you have to, if you have really lived a great life all through, then you become Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brishto Vijaya. There are so many things in Gita. It also says you get a good birth, you take birth in a good kula and good family. Then if you have been a sadhaka, you start as a sadhaka next year birth. You have been a great sadhaka all your life. Maybe you have not realized the highest goal of life, but you have done intense sadhana. So your next birth will be a continuation of that. So you don't have to suffer all those other things. Then you straight away start as sadhaka, and probably that will facilitate you to reach your goal. So similarly, if people have lived a very depending upon the karma you get. So normally, most of the people would live a general, to some extent, ethical and moral life. There will be variance in their taking birth. But if you do completely a shastri and all that, then you go to lower and lower forms of birth as animals. Then worse, even as thavara, that's trees and things like that. That kind of a birth also is possible, depending upon whatever you had done. So, it's very important. It's only whatever prarabdha we enjoy in this life. But in this life also we have so much to do by ourselves. It is not that it goes on, in a very automatic manner without our participation is very much there. If you live a life like that, then it's possible that you can begin the next life. Because in this one life itself, unless one is a great sadhaka, does tremendous amount of sadhana, unbelievable amount of sadhana, it's not possible to get the mukti straight away that way. But this much, many spiritual aspirants can aspire, doing intense sadhana. For that also, to be born as a sadhaka, one has to do intense sadhana, but that is not that unbelievable level of depth. Still, then you can begin your life and then you can go forward. Then next is Yesha Supteshu Jagartir Kamam Kamam Purusho Nirmimanaha Tadeva Shukram Tadeva Brahma Tadeva Murtamuchyate Tasmin Loka Sitaha Sarve Tadunatyeti Kaschana Etadvaitat Yeshu Supteshu Jagartir Kamam Kamam Purusho Nirmimanaha. When all beings are asleep, then what is it that makes the mind work? Everything, your indriyas are all shut, your hands, feet, etc., eyes are closed, ears are not hearing anything. But then suddenly at the mental level, huge activities are going on. You go to America, you go to England, you visit your daughter, you visit your son-in-law, you visit this, everything. All that is because of the Atman. The mind is jada, mind is nothing by itself. But it is he who, makes your desires fulfilled. What is it? The mind is full of desires, whatever we have desired in the waking state or in the previous birth, whatever that all comes to the forefront of the mind. Through the swapna, in the sleep, all those things are happening because of the Atman. That makes all this function possible in the dream. Yes?
So on day one you had mentioned that if there are desires which essentially leads to taking of the body, right? Like going forward the cycle of birth and rebirth, right? So how do we reconcile desires and karma here? Because karma, prarabdha karma which you are speaking about,
Yeah, you see, that is what, you see, the karma theory is not a fatalistic theory. Then that means nobody would ever get mukti. Because once you are born, then that karma will, then what you are doing, another, like that endlessly it will go on ad infinitum. It will never be, it can never end. Anavastha dosha will happen. So, but what happens, even in this life, while you are doing something, still you have got certain amount of free will which God has given you. Using that free will, you should do sadhana so that you can progress in spiritual life. Otherwise, you will be got in a mesh or net of, unending cycles. Because one prarabdha will lead to another, this will lead to another, this will lead to another, then there is no redemption at all. So while the prarabdha karmas and other accumulated karmas of previous births work, you are also given a small window. So using your viveka and vairagya, your buddhi in the right way, when you discriminate, that is what gives you the ability to do sadhana, ability to pursue a higher truth, etc. But then for that, unless one, normally we get completely overpowered by our samskaras, our past, etc. Most of the people give up also very easily. But if you hold on to that and relentlessly, then definitely you can overcome the effects, and that is how your spiritual redemption starts taking place. Otherwise you are inexorably caught in that net or mesh or whatever it is. समझ पा रहे हैं ना? ऐसा नहीं है पूर्व जन्म में क्या हुआ, जैन उसके बाद, लेकिन आपका ऐसा भी कुछ करने का भी, वो भी भगवान आपका वो भी दिया था, इच्छा शक्ति, मैं कर सकता हूँ, ऐसा करूँ. So this is a beautiful discussion about free will in the Kathamrita or in Leela Singh also. So what is like, supposing a cow, a गाय आपका कोई किसी जगह पे बंधा हुआ है. So the area within that, वो अपना मेहनत से उसका खाना पड़ता है. Nobody घास उठा के कहीं नहीं खिलाएंगे. But so that much. So although it is tied to a pole, it has certain amount of freedom to exercise. If you think that no prarabdha में जा मिलेगा, then भूखा मरना है. So your certain amount of freedom is definitely there. Using that we can try to progress. And then the more you exercise, you will find that you have more and more of that. When you do, that's how people take off like that. Once you do a little more, that will become such a strong samskar even in this birth. It will Purana ka, see, that's why they say, whenever you do something, that karma bija is, dropped in the chitta or the mind stuff. So ऐसे बहुत जन्म से जमे हुए बहुत सारा आपका यही है. Now how do you really overcome them? By doing a tremendous amount of good things, sadhana, seva, त्यागा, तपस्या, इस सब के माध्यम में क्या है, ये भी आपका वहाँ बीज छोड़ता रहता है. So the the deposits or the seeds of good karmas, etc., are in such heavy measure, either they completely suppress the old ones. That's how people, how they turn a new leaf. See, person like, in the case of Valmiki was a Daku. So, sometimes what happens, whatever might be your tendency, because but the great amount of good things that you do in life, they keep on accumulating. Just like, you keep a book here, over which you keep 15 books. The one below will never come out because it's completely suppressed. So, ऐसे आपकी शुभ कर्म के माध्यम में पुरानी जन्म में जो अशुभ था व प्रारब्ध था व कर्म था उसके आप बहुत सारी चीज़ दबा सकते हैं. And like that, they slowly, they get so much, they get blunted, so to say. And they may not come up easily at all. That's what they say. It's called, they attain to what is called Dagda Bija Avastha, like a burnt seed. Seed is there in its shape, but it is burned, it will never sprout. So like that, it's possible through tremendous sadhana, the good karmas, etc., to push down the effects of other things which we are born or accumulated in previous births. That is how spiritual redemption happens. That is the power of sadhana.
Maharaj, what happens to the sanchita karma? Does it get burnt up?
To there, it will not, see that point, the point is, somewhere or other they will find an expression. The Holy Mother gives a beautiful example. Supposing your karma is such that you have to lose your leg. Because your sadhana, just a prick may happen in the foot. So, it is not, so these are all highly malleable, mutable, such kind of things. Not that exactly like that. Someone killed somebody in this birth, the same person will come and kill something like that. Maybe a cow may come and with his horns tear him apart. That might happen. So, that way the shape and size, the point is you have done something, you have to suffer. That much is sure. In which form, which way, that can be mutated, manipulated by your own sadhana, etc. Moreover, then it will happen in such a way, finally it will go beyond, it loses its meaning finally, even if it is there. See, only people who live more and more at the level of the senses, for them only all these start happening. Some say that if you live such an immoral life, even in this very birth, you may start acting like that, giving their fruits. এরকম নয়, এরকম কোনো সিকোয়েন্স নয়। সেটা তো আমরা এইসবের সিকোয়েন্সটা তো তুমি আমি তৈরি করতে পারবো না। We cannot decide that sequence. It depends upon so many other things. What all we have done, what body we are getting, where we are born, everything is, that's why they say it's all completely self ultimately. So whatever you have done, we have to. So, but what they say is toward the end of the life, the last portion, the way we live, that kind of determines the beginning of the next life. So if you lead a good life, then you are, sometimes you say, sanskar acha hai, bolte hai na, when you see some children, even at a young age, because they lived a life like that, they are born in the beginning. The beginning is like that. Then you can build on that. But generally, whatever is there, it's all there. No one can escape like that. One cannot do. These are all the things which induce moral and ethical living in the world. But then, to what extent, that depends upon the way you live. How powerful they will be, how harmful they will be, how they will completely affect you or completely stifle you or shatter you, depends upon the way you live in this life. The little small window of self effort that is given to you, if you use it, then it is possible to ward off, delay the intensity of the effects of all that.
And a unconscious state.
Yeah.
For example, in coma and all, they cannot take the name of God at the time of death.
Yes.
So maybe that person was a sadhana.
Probably. See, the point is, before going into coma, whatever he had done, that will happen. Supposing, it's not that at the very last moment, so sabko sambhav nahi hai. If you take very seriously the name of God at the time of death, you may not even come back. You may get mukti itself. But even before that, going into coma, the type of life they live, at least the last several years, that will determine their birth in the next life.
Swamiji, one question.
Yes.
Actually, as you said, our body is a chariot and Atman is the owner of that chariot.
Here, of course, here they say first, initially it is the Jivatman which is riding the chariot.
Yes. So, the Atman is, journey is the Atman is doing. The owner is doing the journey through the body. So, and at the same time, we are telling that we should develop detachments toward the physical body. Detest. We should vairagya bhava. Will that affect to take care of that chariot or whatever responsibility we are having toward the physical body?
The question is not.
It has to be maintained for the journey, complete of the journey.
You see, examples are given for understanding particular things, We cannot, there's nothing like a real chariot in this world where we are riding and all that. It's given an example. They say that how the mind and the buddhi are so important to regulate your life. That is why that example is given. They say that this body is like a chariot. The person who is sitting in the body is the Jivatman, the self, the lower self. And the one who is driving the chariot is the buddhi, the intellect. And the reins are the mind. And the horses are the senses. And the path are the sense objects. So unless the horses are reined in properly by the mind, they will go to various, in a different direction. Various sense objects they will be looking at. And then again, the mind is controlled by buddhi. So the driver of the chariot, the steering wheel is so important. Then only the Jivatman can reach the destiny of his life, namely go and realize his true nature. That is the journey of the Jivatman. As a Jivatman, as an individual, what is our life journey? Our life journey is to realize our true nature, progress, and go forward in such a way that we reach the ultimate goal. So for that example, that Ratha example is given. So what are you saying in this world, what is that?
That part I understood, sir.
Yes.
But the thing is that vairagya bhava, will it prevent me doing whatever I should do to maintain that chariot or the body so that it can complete the...
No, vairagya will only help. See, the body is to be, in a real sense, the body is to be negated. Body is to be given only a very little prominence, the minimum. To get rid of the idea that I am the body, for that you need vairagya. For that you need a more sharper intellect, sharper mind, everything. That's what it says, agraya, buddhya, etc. So, it doesn't mean, see, most of us are busy fulfilling our so-called duties in this world. Then you will never progress in spiritual life. How to steer clear of all that, how to understand what is the minimum that is required of me, then only your spiritual life will have meaning. Without vairagya, etc., no higher life is possible. The real destination of the chariot or this thing is to realize one's true nature. That's why buddhi is so important. What is that buddhi, the sharpness of the buddhi, free from raga and dvesha will come only if you have vairagya and viveka. Otherwise the buddhi will always have malinita or impurities all over.
Taking this a little bit ahead, forward, when we speak about detachment and vairagya and also no sense of ownership, right, giving the agent now. But at the end of the day, we still have to complete the work, right? Where does the enthusiasm and energy how do we reconcile the whole thing there?
Yeah, actually, to be very honest, if one is deeply engrossed or interested in spiritual life, he will not have any enthusiasm for the world. Obviously, such a person will not have. It's not possible. You cannot have a fully vivacious life here and yet also call oneself as a spiritual life. It's not possible. So, but then, one has to understand where one is. One cannot suddenly jump and catch the moon. It's not possible. So one has to understand one's own limitations and work properly, diligently, slowly, so that, we don't completely... See, most of the people, don't even get that awareness. They're completely caught in this samsara, totally immersed in it. So for them, nothing is possible. But then, all these things come in life, See, particularly when you begin the spiritual life in some little earnestness, all these dvandas come very seriously to all aspirants. Whether I am doing my duty, whether I am neglecting it. क्योंकि संसार में तो बहुत सारा करना पड़ता है. So, he alone or she alone will be a true spiritual aspirant. One is able to discern. कई बार हम लोग सोचते हैं, सचमुच जिम्मेवारी नहीं है. वो खुद ही आपका सोच है. Our assumption. There's nothing like that. If you say even without that, the world will go on very beautifully, least affected. But we think that it is our duty, I have to do this. So then you slowly start understanding, no, it is my own imagination, it is not required at all. Then you start spending more and more. So that's why one has to progress carefully. You need guide, you need tradition, you need guru, you need mentors. Then slowly you understand what. Quite often, sometimes there will be very serious issues. It's not, I'm not saying it's not as simple as that. There may be very critical issues. Whether I should do this or that. If I do this, this is this. This can have such a fallout also. Then one needs a tremendous courage. See, there are, for example, there are instances where the only child has come away as a monk. So it's a big dilemma. Who will look after the parents when they are old? In some cases, some parents have suffered also. But then, if you understand the real nature of life, this and that, you will not be, if you have really worked your way, even you will understand these are all, has got nothing to do with you. Even what is the guarantee that they would not have suffered if you are there? Is there any guarantee? It's not that. So, but if you are really dedicated, if you are intense, if you are serious to what you have taken up, everything is justified. Nothing is unjust. But then, if you, in the name of coming away, you while away your time or you yourself indulge in bhoga and all that, then you are a criminal. You are not fit to be called an aspirant. So, spiritual aspiration also demands tremendous self-awareness. One has to be very careful. Then it's possible. Then nothing will happen to anything or anybody like that. So, just choice. So that as we sharpen our viveka, then all that slowly will start revealing themselves to you. You will find that yes, this is how it is. This is the step I have to take now. You get kind of intuition, that kind of a guidance.
And whatever work we do, if we offer it to the Lord, for example,
Yeah, that is of course.
Ramakrishna,
Yes.
So that also...
Definitely. These are all the ways of not getting attached to anything. The point is, we must to remember and consciously do all that. It's all quite an ask. Quite an ask. Yeah.
Just coming to, like we're talking about free will.
Huh?
What we're talking about the free will, so does it mean that actually what all karma I do, for karma phala, only those karmas which I have done during the free will, that will qualify for that? And rest is prarabdha, which is not actually going to have any impact on my karma phala.
No, all are part of that only, na? All the karmas come under either prarabdha, agama or sanchita. There are 3 types of karmas, which all bear fruit in this birth in various ways. Along with that, you have some window of free will also, through which you do more karmas and you accumulate more phala, then they will start bearing fruit in the next life. So it goes on. So how do you break the chain? When you understand your true nature and you first stop accumulating more karmas like that. Do sadhana, do such things which will not produce that kind of karma phala. Then by that intense sadhana, you not only not accumulate, you start reducing the effects or this thing of the accumulated thing. That is why you become a mukta purusha ultimately. And then maybe a little prarabdha is left. With that, when the body goes off, that will also go. So, in this life also you will be doing fresh karmas. Not that only your old one will be acting.
Here also,
Yes.
I'm just saying that what I am doing during my free will part. You said,
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
I am eating water.
Yeah, pre-will part, yes.
So that is what qualifies for my free karma. Yeah, my karma phala.
Next birth.
Next, Putra,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. But there is a part of it which I don't have control on.
Yeah, it will come. The prarabdha and all will come.
Adhikari or
Yeah.
whatever I am basically there, my dharma is doing this. I am doing a dharma, something, a part of it is of my free will and part of it is of.
Yeah.
So is it only the part that I am doing of my free will that is actually what will qualify for the karma phala?
Yes. Yes.
And the rest of the part that is not
Correct.
have any, that was my doubt actually.
Yeah, but then see, the point is, the rest of the thing that is happening in your life also, because of what you do under free will in a very extremely enlightened way, the effects of all that will be greatly reduced. See, supposing, because of what you have done in the previous life, you have to lose one arm. You have done such a bad thing, one arm has to go. But if you are a great sadhaka, instead of that, somebody might pinch you and with a blade they may scratch you and it may end with that. So the virulence or the power of prarabdha etc. can be reduced through sadhana in this birth. Otherwise there won't be any redemption. No?
Just one question from my side. Is there actually any free will or not? When we talk about free will, that we have a free will, as you said, that Ramakrishna Paramahansa also said that the cow has got, when she is tied to that rope, it has some power to raise.
Yeah, that is its free will.
That is a free will. But is there actually any free will?
That is free. That is not actual. The cow which is eating it's on its own. Definitely, you see, if you take away free will, we will not be able to function in this world at all. Free will is all.
Isn't it a delusion on our part as individuals till we don't reach a particular stage where we actually feel that the free will, I mean to say doing anything in our daily lives, whether discriminating whether I should do this or not, I have a doubt, I feel that even that is not under our control sometimes. I mean to say that will is also not.
Why not? See, supposing you decided to come to this class, you came free will. There is always, ultimately there is one thing called divine will or something operating at a very high level. But as individuals, how do you understand? How do you participate? See, even if you sit like that, that's also your free will, you can say, or you can say it is that, whichever way you interpret it. But then, as long as we have the mind and the buddhi, etc., we keep striving, and through that, whatever happens is our free will only. Ultimately, there is no point in labeling something as divine will or whatever happens will happen. That is only a fatalistic theory that will not help anybody.
No, I mean to say, is it that something when the divine will aligns with your free will, and that particular thing happens? Like when we decided to come to this place, it could have happened that some.
Yeah, definitely. That is what, you see, that's what the individual will is, the decision and trying to come and all that. Then the higher will is to make it ultimately happen, and yes, you managed to come, no other obstacle came. Maybe you can say that part is divine. So there is always a portion for our own decision, and then there is also a higher will operating, which is called free will or the divine will. Otherwise, whatever you might say, people will keep on, you can call it, but we are constantly making effort also. You can say, oh, it's only he is making. But if you can constantly remember that it is the Lord himself is working through me, then he will be elevated in life. If you think that it is fatalistic, I have nothing to do, that is one idea. If you think that whatever I am making effort, it's all his, he is only making me do all this, then that becomes sadhana that elevates you. If you think that no, I have nothing to do, whatever happen will happen, then you will have nothing to hold on to, and your life will become miserable.
I have another question, Swamiji. I wanted to know, like when we talk about dharma and adharma, so where is that demarcation? Like I'll ask about a very, it seems to be a very trivial kind of an example when I talk about it. Like when I'm in the kitchen and there are ants moving around, and since they spoil the food or they, linger around the sweet.
That's what, see, there is nothing like, completely defined as it all depends upon the situation, our life, where we are, and all that. So it's nothing like, but largely in a society, there are certain things which are defined, maybe in a bigger picture. So, in a society, one cannot go and simply kill someone. That's clearly an adharma. But then, in a war front, you go and kill enemies. That is dharma of the Kshatriya. So, these are all determined by the station of the life, where we are, our perception also. It differs person to person. One person might say that giving away 90% of my salary as a charity is my dharma. Somebody might think that no, I should not, it's all only for me. That is his dharma might be. So it differs from person to person, our perception. But in a social order, there are certain larger things which are determined. Like one cannot go and steal somebody. That is the dharma prescribed for everybody according to the Shastras. You cannot go and kill somebody in a society. That is prescribed. So there are certain things like ethical and moral codes of conduct which are accepted as practices. But ultimately, dharma and adharma depends upon our perception, our values, our beliefs, how do we act in life and all that.
But I have one question. Is there a relationship in my present life? Somebody is living 30 years, somebody is 50 years, somebody is 70 years, somebody is 100 years. Is this any relationship?
Definitely. See, your prarabdha is all, if it is exhausted, then this life goes. See, your accumulated things are all done. Then आपका मियाद खत्म है, आप चले जाती हैं. Then अगले जन्म में फिर शुरू होगा. इस जन्म में क्या क्या किया, उसके अनुसार अगले जन्म में आप भोग करेंगे.
Is this any relation to the suffering of disease to the karma?
Yes, definitely. See, why some people are born blind, why some are spastic or autistic, this and that. It's all largely karma phala only. Not only that, it's a very hugely complicated structure. Not only the individual, the karmala, father and mother, all put together. It's not just only one.
Only one's karma phala.
Yeah, might be.
Relative karma phala.
Probably. It's a very complex maze.